Good morning, Shiners. Pardon my chewing. I forgot to swallow that last bite of sausage I had. Pardon my chewing. I forgot to swallow that last bite of sausage I had. Good morning, Brenda, and you're welcome. Good morning, Brenda, and you're welcome. I'm trying to hear if I'm echoing. Oh, I know why I am. I got this on. Now I shouldn't be. Well, since it's just me. Hey, Ian, good morning, buddy. How's Colorado today? Come on in, Mark. Come on in. You can eat or whatever you're doing. Uh-oh. Oh, there. Somehow I muted you too.
You're going to eat your sausage?
I'm going to tell you. What did he say? Snowy.
You was echoing.
Am I still echoing? Or Ian, do you still hear that?
Hey, Ian. No, you're not echoing now.
Okay.
I don't think. I don't hear an echo.
Mark said it snowed up his way yesterday, but then quit. All right, it did. Did it come back?
No, it's sunny today.
It all blew down Ian's way.
Wind's blowing, but it snowed yesterday, but today it's bluebird sky.
Bluebird sky. I stayed up way too late last night working on
watching bull riding.
What?
Stayed up too late watching bull riding.
Well, I was doing both actually, but I did watch bull riding. Yeah, I was just I just wondered about that. Which like you said, it's amazing. I mean, it surprises me in some ways, and it may not have, but it just seemed odd. And then he didn't ride the bull, so that made it even worse.
Yeah.
It's that wet. You guys have wet snow out there? Oh, trees down everywhere. Uh-oh. So does that mean you're not at the office today, Ian, or are you on your phone or something? Man, I tell you what else, there was a couple of hard licks last night, too.
Oh, boy.
This is the right stream, Ian. You're going to hear some in just a few minutes. I'm just kind of killing time and getting caught up. There was a couple of guys got slammed hard last night.
Hard. But it's getting that point. It's that time of year. It happens every year.
Well, true, but
they're breaking down.
You know what? It's even the bad bulls are good bulls. Hi there.
Let me go.
Are you a unicorn?
She's a unicorn.
I'm not a unicorn.
Well, you got a unicorn.
Unicorns are cool.
That's my sleeping mask to help me sleep.
It's her sleeping mask. It helps her sleep.
No, okay.
I don't wake up in the middle of the night. So
that's good. I wish I didn't have to wake up in the middle of the night. Something else wakes me up, though.
You can fly with them ears. All right, take off. Go eat your breakfast. Go eat your eggs.
Morning cuteness indeed. What's her name again? Dahlia? No.
Della.
Della
May.
Brenda, that's Della.
She
Della what?
Della May.
Della May. Della.
She.
Well, that don't sound like. Is that a Western name? That sounds Southern.
Well, that she's named after a song. She was she was here last weekend or a couple weekends ago eating her eggs, and she ate her yolk on her dippy egg, as she calls it, with her toast, and then she got up and headed into the bathroom, and I'm like, well, you need to finish your egg. And she said, GD, Grandpa. just as plain as day. It had all the right inflection and everything. And
yeah, well, I raised a couple that way too.
It was funny. I started laughing, which is a bad thing to do, but there you go.
Well, sometimes you just can't help it. I'm off my camera today. I know I've told you about Jennifer, so I'll never forget that. Put her hands on her hips and just look her head. SOB. Just walked out like she'd been saying it all her life.
What are you doing, buddy?
You want a bite of this?
You gonna eat some sausage? There you go.
I had some sausage.
Owen's eating sausage. He loves sausage.
I guess you did know the difference.
Me too, Owen.
He's staring off into the distance, chewing on sausage.
Thinking, well, sausage can make you think. Especially if it's good sausage.
He's thinking about trains or bulls or Paw Patrol or something.
No doubt. It's a Wonderful Life. What is it he says? Anchor chains, train whistles, and something else. It sounds like travel or something.
You like it?
Myotis bear. I just now noticed that.
Well, I thought it was appropriate.
Little brown or big brown?
Well, whichever.
We got them. They're here at
I know
home already, which is surprised. We were out watching the blood moon the other night and had bats like flying by our faces, and it was cool.
How warm was it?
Not very. And we thought it was kind of early for them, and then it got cold again. So hopefully they tucked up in the barn or something. But
I hope so.
Yeah, they're here. They were flying around crazy on the blood moon.
Maybe that was part of it. Maybe the blood moon had them all riled up.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah, Sean, we were standing on the back deck and something went zooming by Shauna's face. I mean, just within a couple of inches. And I was like, well, what the heck was that? It looked like a bat. And we stood out there for a while, watched the whole deal. And sure enough, they were swirling around.
See what Brenda said?
Just contemplating why we can't wear white after Labor Day.
Have you seen that commercial?
No.
There's a guy sitting on a beach eating a Twizzler. You know what Twizzlers are? The chewy.
Yeah. Licorice.
Yeah. And he's sitting there eating. He said, sometimes I just sit on the beach and contemplate and think. He said, contemplating why can't I wear white after Labor Day?
Why can't I wear my straw hat after Labor Day?
Well, that's a good question too. One which apparently doesn't bother you, but your neighbors are concerned about.
Yeah, they worry about me when I got a straw hat on in November.
There was a commercial on last night during the bull ride, and I meant to ask you if you saw it. Now I can't remember what it was.
Cold. Oh my.
Sounds like he's having a big time.
He's aggravating his sister is what he's
That's a
doing.
big time, probably.
Yeah,
He's the younger brother, so that's what they do for a living.
he is.
My wife had one. I know how well that works.
Hey, eat some of that egg. There you go.
I told you I was sitting down here one day and I think it was a big brown come crawling out from my chimney. I looked up out of the corner of my eye or something. I saw something move, and I looked up there, and he was crawling across the face of my fireplace, creeping along, upside down, like they do. And I thought, well, what in the hell? He come out. There was a hole right there. I never noticed it, but there was just a hole big enough for him to come through, right in the corner of where the fireplace meets the wall.
Yeah.
And he's not through there. So I probably got some in the attic if I got up there and really looked.
Well, and I never thought about that. We've got three chimneys. We got 3 brick chimneys on this old place, and
That you don't use?
that we haven't had. Yeah, we haven't used. One of them's non-functional anyway, and it's probably a good spot for.
Yeah.
Well, 2 of them. My wife just reminded me. 2 of them are non-functional. They probably got bats living in them, but
At least in the summertime.
yeah, we don't. That's why we were kind of surprised to see bats this early here. I'm sure we have bats I know we have bats that hibernate in Wyoming, but we don't usually see them until July some years. So
Yeah, I'm sure you've got browns and
yeah, and we get those spotted
cave bats.
those really cool spotted bats, and then the big hoary bats, and big solitary kind of bats that don't live in colonies. And
a lot of those guys winter in caves, though.
Yeah. But we only see bats primarily during the summertime. So.
Yeah, I don't know if I put it in my notes here or not, but I was looking yesterday. We used to try to tell people not to go caving in bat where there was known bat activity in the wintertime because
the bats were asleep.
Yeah, and you wake them up, and if they can't go back to sleep, and they try to find something to eat, they can't find anything. Then they start starving to death.
Right.
And I was at this article I was reading last night said they burn up about a third. If you do that in the middle of the winter, some bats can burn up to a third of their reserves in that one deal just because of that, which means they may not survive.
Right.
If it's a cold winter long enough. Which is what we kept. That's why we were, and we'll talk about it later. But that's why we were gating off all the caves that were on, or a lot of them anyway, that were on TVA property. If they had bat activity, or if known bats were in them.
Well, in that part of the world there along the Cumberland, all those caves were also, a lot of them were like early Native American sites too.
Yeah, well, that was another reason. We had people digging. We had to keep people out because of that. And it's not always easy to gate off a cave because there's always the guy that wants to figure out how to climb over the gate or cut the gate.
Or take a cutting torch in there.
If they can get one, I tell you, if they can get something to one, they will.
Yeah,
which is easy these days with battery powered, sawzalls and stuff like that. Whiz wheels but we had one cave by the dam that we had to rig up a cable trolley line kind of thing with a truck with a cherry picker on the dam with a cable that ran down to the cave, and then that's where all the supplies had to go to. You could walk to the cave, but you couldn't get any equipment or supplies down there. Oh, Brenda's she She is a member. Well, you tell them. You're on there. You can tell them.
A bat with a pacifier.
Yeah. She showed them to me last night. I can tell you. I don't know. Brenda, Brenda, you can actually, if you know how to put a link in there, you can put a link in the chat. You're a mod, so you can do that. She belongs to a Facebook group called Batty or Gone Batty or something.
Batty for
Hey,
bat.
Carol. What is the name? Something Batty. I don't remember if it's just
Batty for bats. It says right there.
Oh, Batty for bats. Yes, okay. I wasn't reading it right. And they had a bunch in Australia and that part of the world where they've got those really big fruit bats. Yeah, the ones that are,
the flying foxes.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And some of them are called that because some of them are about that big. They have a lot of problems down there with them getting caught up in barbed wire and just cattle fencing and just all kinds of things apparently.
In Australia?
Yeah, and in other places too, but that was one of the places. And I'll find one here in a minute, Ian, if she don't post a link. So she was showing me, so they, a lot of those bats carry their young before the young are weaned, I guess, and they'll fly along hanging on to them, especially some of those bigger ones. And if something happens to the female, she hits something or hits a wire or gets tangled up in something, sometimes they'll drop the pup. So they go out apparently and find the pups and
give them a pacifier.
And they're used to, I guess they're used to having the teat in their mouth almost all the time.
Yeah.
And just how they function. And so they give them these pacifiers and that keeps them content and quiet between feedings. It's like a kid. And I guess it helps them. They raise a lot and turn. Okay, Brenda has. I don't know if I can. I have to see if I can find that, Brenda. Polo, she showed me a cartoon. It was kind of like a Far Side last night. It was a bat flying, kind of hovering around over the ground, and the bat yells "Marco," and down near the ground, a moth or something says "Polo," and then it thought and it says, "Oh crap!" I thought was a pretty good cartoon. Well, Carol, I didn't see that message. I hadn't got reading. I was going to do Facebook or Instagram this morning, and I ran out of time. I'll have to find a bat with a pacifier picture. Let me see if I can post a link or something.
Ian found it.
Oh, he did. Okay.
I just remember Dad with that species of bat, those big flying fox kind of fruit bats, Dad talking about back in the 1960s. Like occasionally the boys would get them a fresh piece of meat in the jungle because they were eating sea rats for 13 months. And every now and again they harvested one of those big bats instead of a squirrel.
Well, they're about the same thing, rats with wings or squirrels with wings, whichever way you want to look at it. Let me see here. Here's one. Carol, if you're on there, you might appreciate this. This wasn't in my original slide set, but I'll show it. There they are. I don't think I can make it any bigger, but that's for they wrap them up in cloth like towels and then they sometimes do this to keep them all together. And those ones that are, real community or colony related, they hook them up together. And I don't know how long they keep them, but they raise them until they're big enough to fly away on their own. And then And then they turn them loose. Unless one's damaged where it can't fly. Hey, Dave. Good morning. Unless they're damaged beyond flight or being able to survive in the wild, they turn them all loose. They do the same, but during those fires last year, they were doing the same thing with joeys of various species, where they'd get burned, or the adult, they'd find the joey out that'd been deserted because of the fires, and
Pigs in a blanket.
Close enough, Dave. If you don't mind a hairy pig with wings. I tell you what, oh man, pigs in a blanket.
Oh.
I hadn't thought of that yet. So, hey, Cherie, good morning. Are you working? We're going to look at bats, and this was just sort of a. Brenda wanted me to show a picture of bats with pacifiers. Yeah, they call them bat-ritos. Burritos is a bat-rito. Oh, good, Cherie. Bat-ritos.
He's outside, buddy.
No, he's right there.
Oh, he's with you. Okay.
Oops. That wasn't what I wanted to do. Stop the screen. Now I got to go back and turn something on.
She wants some Paw Patrol.
Well, I hate to seem so inept. I'm really not nearly as inept as I look like.
He wants his juice.
I finished my juice, buddy.
He's
You need to be swallowing, getting that stuff down. You got a big day.
drinking like crazy.
Good, because he needs to poop.
It'll make you have to go pee later, though.
That'll be all right.
Papa will make him go outside on a cold day.
Better out than in.
Well, let me see. Since you started that, Brenda, let me see if I can find that other one.
What are you doing, pal? Huh? What are you doing, pal?
Oh, here's some cool bats. I should have got pictures of. Man, there's a lot of really scary ones.
Uncle Tim's gonna have bat pictures on in a minute.
Or not scary ones, but drone ones that have strange expressions on their face. Man. I'm probably not going to be able to find that, Brenda. You may have to send it to me. Wait a minute, you already did send it to me.
You want down? Huh?
Marco Polo.
There you go, bud. Here. Hey. Take your juice.
I didn't put a lot of the like foreign bats. There's Batman roasting marshmallows behind the Batmobile. But I saw some ones I had never seen before. That one of them looks like a mule. I swear he's got it's a big fruit bat from somewhere, and he's got ears that look like not ears, but his face his snout and stuff looks like a dang mule.
Yeah, it's like a hammer something.
Hammerhead. I believe it's a hammerhead bat. I think that's what they call it.
Yeah, they're pretty goofy looking.
They are. I don't think I'd ever seen that one before. Let's see who else here. Cherie, Carol, Ian, Dave. There's John. Hey, John. Now we can start. John's here.
Hey, John.
You can do that, Ian. Do you have my Instagram number? I don't know if it's probably on my Facebook bio page or whatever they call it. If you can't find it, I'll find it. I don't care. I don't reckon you can find me if you're some kind of crazy killer or something. John, before I get started on anything else, I got to know, when does the fishing start back up? Or has it? Anybody, you want to say good morning?
They got to be catching fish already.
Surely they are. Let's say, well, surely they are. They've had a lot of nasty weather along the coast this year. I don't know, that might change things up.
Well, my sister was just down to some island off of Georgia, and they
Really?
were catching sharks like crazy.
They were catching what? Sharks?
Some kind of little sharks, yeah, little black tips or something, and they were going off of some fishing pier down there and caught all kind of fish. So, but that was, I don't know how bad the surf was.
John is on his way to Massachusetts. He's going to Cape Cod to go fishing right now.
There we go.
He's riding shotgun with somebody. Shotgun's not a bad deal if you don't have to worry about car sickness or anything, because that way you get to look around and see things. Yeah, I was amazed when I started riding around sometimes the things I've been missing by driving all these years, and I thought I saw a lot of things along the road. Okay, Ian, I'll go look at that. I'll get that in just a minute. Well, I might as well look at it right now. Then I can do that, and then I can start my.
Ian with a German last name, like Zorns,
For example.
For example.
Oh, I'll do, Carol. I just read your note, and I will do that.
Krauts.
Either I'm looking in the wrong place, Ian, or I don't see it.
Hey, cool it over there. Look at Grizzly Bear.
And if you want to, if you've got the link, just post it in my Saturday Morning Shine group chat thingy, whatever that's called. And I don't see it otherwise yet. It either hasn't come through, which seems odd, or I'm looking in the wrong place. Oh, no, wait a minute. There it is. You're under request. Well, of course you can be let in. Here it is. Anyway, what was I saying? I was saying something.
I don't know. Did it have to do about hunting?
Oh, that's the pacifier. Yeah, that's the pacifier one. I'll show that again. I'll show that one in a minute. That's a different one than I put up. Excuse me. No, I don't think it had to do with hunting yet. I'm be playing golf every day in October at Myrtle Beach. No fishing then.
That's just not right.
We got to talk to him about that. How's he cook them little thing, you reckon?
Well, they're kind of hard to. You just get their eggs anyway.
I've never been able to get one tender enough to chew. I mean, you chew and you chew and you chew. And even when I get them kind of soft by boiling for about 2 days, they still are hard to eat. Shooting them golfs. So what's running at Cape Cod right now, John? Or what's there? Is that striped bass or sea bass or I don't know. You do call them striped bass, I think. You do some saltwater fishing too, John, don't you? You know what a hybrid bass is? Yeah, striped bass. Man, I hope you get into some big ones up there then.
They'll be saltwater.
Yeah, those will be.
Yeah.
I meant fresh. Did I say saltwater? I meant freshwater. I was going to relate to him the story of how you went to school with one of the guys that invented the striped bass or the hybrids.
Oh, yeah.
Cherokee bass or whatever they want to call them. Yeah, Mark had an instructor when he was in Arkansas, wasn't it? Buford?
Mm-hmm.
Who involved in the program where they sort of created that hybrid bass. It's a cross between a white bass and a striper, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
And same stripers you have.
Buford Red Tatum.
Buford
The
Red
man's
Tatum.
name. The best Southern name I ever heard in my life. Buford Red Tatum.
Was the Red a real name or was that a nickname thrown in there?
He was clear like my grandson. He was.
Yeah, Carol Mark's got a clear grandson.
He was a red-headed boy.
Is he around? He's not there, is he? I can't hear him.
He was in here earlier. I don't know where he's got himself off to. He's with his
Paw Patrolling
with his
somewhere.
grandmother playing with something.
He's probably playing Paw Patrol.
Very possible.
He does bull riding with you.
There was just a crash, so he's doing something.
Maybe he fell off the bull.
Oh, he's got the old spinning wheel.
Oh, were you set on it?
Well, no, it probably once upon a time you could have, but it makes an awful good ship's wheel.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, he's up to some kind of no good in there in the living room right now.
Well, he might come back through later.
He'll be all right.
All right, guys, let's get Batty. You give me 1 minute. I think I got this all but ready here. I think this is going to be relatively painless today. Famous last words by me. Okay. Da-da-da-da. Look at that. Wasn't that cool? That was quick. I didn't have to fumble around. So we're going to talk about bats. We're going to talk about some. I couldn't list everything I found. I was up to, watching the bull riding, but I was also up working on this till well after midnight last night because I just kept finding more bats, and I wanted to try to get as many North American bats as I could. But there's just too many to get them all. So, and I still have probably way too many slides. But we're going to talk about these kind of things, so we'll start from there.
See, John's already talking about Louisville Sluggers.
No, John, not the slug. I knew somebody would. I told Mark yesterday, I said, I'm going to talk about bats, and I don't mean the Louisville Slugger kind either. Although,
which led us to a squirrel.
Which led us to a squirrel. That's true. Although I could get started on, ball bat discussions of various kinds that could lead,
and the emerald ash borer and the fact they're making bats out of maple instead of ash now.
Yeah, hickory. I guess they have, but they were never the popular. Ash has always been the popular thing, but nowadays it can't be. There's not enough of it. We cut an ash tree down there at the corner of our house, and it's coming back up as suckers. I don't know whether to let them grow or not. Yeah. Anyway, we're going to talk about bats, and here's just a big old picture. And Carol, I can't help it. Every time I see something like this, I want to order one and send it to you so you can teach your kids. Yeah, Ian, that's a mouse. I'm sorry. Myotis means mouse, is roughly means mouse here. I think I've got that in my notes here somewhere. So I could tell people what Myotis means. But that's in essence. So they're basically bats with little ears, because there are some bats you'll see that have great big giant ears. But anyway, this chart has a lot of the, I'm not going to say it has all, because I've not studied it well enough to know, but it's got a lot of the North American bats that we have.
Hey, buddy.
Some of important note that I will talk about are grays, which is the upper left-hand corner.
Come here a minute.
And, well, I'll talk about big browns and little browns. I'm looking for another one, though. Indiana bat, which is down at the bottom center, third one from the left. And some of the issues going on with them right now, biologically. So, first thing I was going to mention was this is one of the biggest threats to bats in this country and in Europe for several years now. This chart goes back to 2006, 2007, and basically it's a map. If you can zoom in on it, it's by county. It shows where they found cases of white nose syndrome, which is what this bat on the right has around its face. And that's a fungus that grows around their noses, basically, and gets up inside their nose and makes it. But it gets on other parts of their body too. You can see it on its wings and stuff there, and it weakens them and causes them to be more susceptible to bat mites also. But if it wakes them up, my understanding is it wakes them up, and they tend to fly in the winter when they're trying to hibernate, and that's what kills a lot of them, because they just can't. If they can't feed, they can't find their insects in the winter, then they tend to die. Hey, Kay Atwood. So I think that's a gray bat there in that picture. It may sound obvious, but they all look kind of alike, but they are different species. And they've also got natural predators, such as the yellow rat snake on the left, or owls. They both do capture and eat bats. Snakes are kind of interesting, because I never thought about it, but snakes if you got cave dwelling bats, rat snakes hang around the outside of the cave, and they'll actually reach out and grab them as they fly out at night. And sometimes if you're there watching bats, if you're near the mouth of the cave, you gotta kind of watch out they don't grab a hold of you by mistake.
Yeah, those big caves down there in Texas are there are populations of red-tailed hawks that make their whole living off of eating bats.
Oh, wow.
They catch them in the air, and then I remember watching eastern screech owls catching bats around the lights by my first university. They flew around and just snagged bats right out of the air. Well,
basically they're a winged mouse, so it's right down. It's in their food chain. I mean, it's not like they're not. And okay, I have been accused of having bats in my belfry. I think that's a different thing, though.
Or getting in your hair.
Barney Fife used to say they'll get in your hair and lay eggs, and then that'll drive you crazy. And I believed that for a long time, and then I grew up and found out bats don't lay eggs.
My mother was just petrified of them because they'd get in your hair. They'd been told their whole lives that they'll fly around and get in your hair, and then you'll have like a bat on your head,
and you'll be a bat brain or something. They can carry rabies, although I don't know that they're the worst vector for rabies, and and some of those critters like that can carry them in kind of stasis, or what's the word I'm looking for? I won't say they're immune to it, but they're not active. It's not active in their system, and they can transfer. There, people used to get excited about that too. They thought bats were the only thing that had rabies, and skunks and all kinds of critters are vectors for rabies. Now they know. But bats could have it. They're mammals. All mammals are susceptible.
Well, we always had to get rabies shots when we were handling them. So
yeah, I did too. We did too at TVA. We had to have shots. I haven't had my titer checked in years. Obviously, I'm not doing it now. But I handled grays and browns and little browns and pipistrelles and things like that that were fairly common here. We were looking for Indianas a lot, which were in more trouble. Well, grays were in trouble too in a lot of places, but yeah, that was one thing we had to be protected. That would be amazing. I'd love to be somewhere along the coast and be able to see orcas. That would be quite exciting. That might be a wet your pants kind of moment. Have you seen orcas, Mark, in the wild? I can't remember if you told me you have or not.
No, but what Kay's referring to is that they've just seen like orcas off of Cape Cod, which has never been. I don't think they've ever recorded them there before.
Ah, well, I wondered about that when
they're
I read
typically a Pacific, in India Ocean, Pacific Ocean critter, and that kind of seeing them in the Atlantic was pretty cool.
Yeah. I don't know, Ian. I'll have to give UFO some thought.
Well, I'm going to be in Roswell next week.
That's right. Mark could give us an on-the-road report live from the.
We're going to catch us an alien and bring him home.
You bring him home, we'll put him on the show.
He might just be from Haiti or Mexico, but we're gonna bring us one.
Bring one home. Okay, so I'm going to jump right into some bat. Back up.
Oh yeah, don't skip over that one.
So, like I said, I don't have them all, but I've got a lot, and I've got a lot more pictures. If we do get through, I might do that. So, I'm going to start with this one. Some of these are kind of in alphabetical order because that's sort of how I ran them. And this is an Allen's big-eared bat. Reckon why it's called a big-eared bat. I don't know if this was the bird or the bird. I don't know if this was the bat, but they were talking about a couple of these bats out west that of course, they all use echolocation that I know of anyway, or most of them do, unless it's maybe a fruit bat, which it probably uses its nose. But and they were saying that there's some places certain prey has learned to pick up on and avoid that echolocation clicks, which I thought was interesting. And I don't know if that's why they've developed into bigger ears so they can hear a lower note or something to avoid. Or maybe they've had to change the. What's the?
I see the birds.
Oh, Carol, what are you afraid to ask Ian?
What did you get into?
I didn't mean to skip, Kay, when you said you had a neighbor. But I made fun or talked about bats in my belfry, but I was telling earlier that we had a bat in the house here last year. It crawled out around my fireplace chimney and was in the house, and I swept it up and took it back out. Let's see. One of the guys I work with does a lot of kayaking near the Cape. He said he sees lots of seals. Yeah, well, they definitely like to eat seals. Orcas do. Oh, so there have been some sightings up there.
Oh,
interesting. Okay, so anyway, the Allen's bat if you look at the map to the right there, that shows range, and they go down into Mexico and in the eastern United States with one strange little pocket over here in the east. I thought that was interesting. It looks like part of Kentucky and Virginia, and I've got a feeling that's got to do with mines or caves or something where they've adapted to staying in, but I don't know how they got back there. That's a long way for a bounder. They're not quite as migratory as birds are, at least not in this country. Next slide, please. And here's an Arizona Myotis. So that's a mouse-eared bat in Arizona, and you can see he's just in New Mexico, Arizona, Southern California, maybe up in the edge of Utah and Nevada. But he dips down into Mexico, and if you look, you'll see that strip in Mexico. These bats can be very habitat specific or food source specific, and we'll talk about that some too as we go. But a lot of these Myotis are insect eaters. As a matter of fact, I think maybe I don't say they're all Myotis are, but most Myotis bats are insect eaters, insectivores. But there are some that eat other things, and there are some that eat meat. In fact, there's carnivorous bats too that eat frogs and that sort of maybe salamanders if they can catch them. And this is a big brown, and you can see big browns pretty much cover the entire United States. I think I've got another slide of pictures of browns because they are pretty common. But yeah, if you think bats are yucky or nasty or scary or whatever, just take a look at that face. I mean, they are really pretty. Their fur is soft, and I mean, they just look like a little puppy in many ways. Of course, they'll bite you like a little puppy too. Here's some big browns. The left picture is some browns sleeping and possibly hibernating. I don't know what those two are, in a barn, in an old barn structure. And that other one is one just out in the wild who's landed on a tree, looks like, temporarily. Probably taking a rest. I don't know. I don't think browns roost in trees. Some bats do roost in trees. Some of the ones I deal with did. And here's a big free-tailed bat. And it's mostly in South America, but it does get up into the southern United States, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, part of California. And these are bigger, and you can see it's got pretty big ears, but see the tail sticking out of the back? And what a free-tailed bat is a bat that actually has a loose, free tail like a mouse. And other bats usually have a web of skin between their back legs, and their tail is part of that skin flap or web. And so those are not free-tailed. But they don't call them that. They just identify the free-tailed ones. And we have a couple different free-tailed bats in the United States. Most of them in the South or Southwest. This little guy's from California. If he looks a little smoked up or anything, bear in mind weed's legal out there. He looks surprised to me, but he's a leaf-nosed bat. I don't know if you can see his nose real well, but it's kind of flat and got a little spike on it. And I can't remember what those guys are. I think they're also insect eaters, but they might also eat nectar. I'm not sure about that. But usually all those features like the flat nose or the big ears or whatever, they're all relative to how they feed or what they eat. You want to say hi to Carol? You want to say hi, Miss Carol? Come here. While you're awake. Oh, man. Say hi, Carol. Hi, Carol. Stay up here just for a minute. There's Kay and Carol and Cherise in here, so you can say hi to all of them. They're, Carol's your fan club, so you better say hi to her. All right, ready? Pop back down. Teddy's made his appearance. Yeah, Ian, he is a big old kitty. He's a whopper. He's a wampus cat if there ever was one. Okay, and then we've got these are cats. I did get some close-up pictures. That you can see that on the left. You can kind of see how that bat's ears, well, not his ears, his nose is formed. That's hence the name. But scientists and people that find these kind of things tend to, look for stuff like that to name critters after a lot. And here's the California Myotis, which is a lot like a little brown to me. And you see in the purple there, pretty much where they range. You could have those out your way, Mark.
Yeah, I don't remember if we've ever documented that species in Wyoming or not. It's not showing it on that range map, but
but it's sure close.
It's that when things are that close, they usually wander across the line.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Well, you ever see a canyon bat when you're in Arizona or New Mexico?
Don't call them.
I think that kind of reminds me of a badger or a wolverine or something. and this map shows. Oh, that map's in the wrong page. That's a western pipistrelle, I believe. I thought. Maybe not. This map showed 2 species for some reason. Oop.
John, catch some big fish.
Later, John.
Enjoy yourself.
Yeah, let us know what you catch, John. Another Myotis, a cave Myotis, and you can see a little bit of difference on that one. You can see it a little bit longer, a little bit different, more of a, I don't know what you call that.
That's a pretty interesting range for that critter.
Yeah, it's really spread out, and I thought that was weird too, how scattered it was. Oh, and then we got the vampire bat. I couldn't go without putting that on there. We do have some of them in the sun. There are a few, mostly in Central America. I don't know if they get up here. They don't go after people. They don't turn into, sultry dark men in the night and wear capes and, tuxedos. They do feed on blood, though, from different animals.
I think they get the occasional one there in South Texas.
That's why I put it on here. They do
find one every now and again.
They will, if a cow or something's got, they'll bite a cow somewhere and they'll drink the blood or take blood from them. Not necessarily in the neck, just wherever they latch a hold of one, and other jungle critters and things. But and this skull example is how they do that. Basically, it's got that extra incisor or tooth there in the middle, and then the 2 normal eye teeth or fang teeth. But that center one helps them, channel that blood down to their mouth when they just take a little tiny bit. It's not like they go in there and suck one dry. Although I guess if you had enough bats on one, they could. I don't know. But a cow's got quite a bit of blood in it, so if they're on a cow. But I'm sure that those are the reasons why they got such a reputation among when people didn't know any better and they didn't know anything about, bats and vampires and all that. It made a heck of a good story to somebody. Eastern red bat. This is a little guy that I caught several times when we were trapping bats, and I thought these were some of the neatest bats that we handled because I couldn't see through any of them, but man, they got red hair. Some of them are just flaming red hair, and they're a bit of an arboreal type bat. They pretty much hang out in vegetation. I think I don't know if they migrate a little bit. I think they're also wintertime cave dwellers, but I'm not positive. They may sleep out in tree hollows and things. But they certainly spend their summers in the woods, which is usually where we caught them. We caught quite a few of those over different places. I just think they're really neat looking bats, and they got a really cute face. There's a couple of more pictures. There's one on the left, Brenda. If you're still awake, that's a female red, eastern red bat with 3 pups hanging on her. And I didn't know they boiled. I honestly thought they all just had one. I didn't know they could have two or even three. Of course, that one looks like it might be in captivity, so maybe they've introduced some orphans to her or something. And maybe she's feeding them. I don't know. But they're really cool bats, and you can see that's, again, it's a tree bat. They hang out in trees, and they hang out more on the limbs and stuff. They don't necessarily hide. A lot of bats will hide it in crevices and holes, and these guys might, if it's warm enough, they may just hang out, just in the woods. And here's a small-footed. Again, it's kind of a similar range to the red, but it doesn't go as far south. That's eastern, yeah. And I thought I'd show this because it shows another interesting habitat example. And this rock shelf here, it's got all these cracks and places in it. They'll hang out in those places and usually give birth in those kind of places. But they'll also hang out in these these rocks for this riprap. This is an earthen dam. I can't remember what state that was in. But they actually have found some eastern small-footed bats underneath in these big rocks underneath them where they can get into a crack, between two large riprap, and they'll hang out. And that's kind of what you're seeing in that larger picture. That's how they can get in these small little cracks inside between rocks or between wood or trees or whatever. They can just flatten out and they scoot in there kind of sideways. And it's amazing how small a place they can get into. We used to find them in bridges. We go under bridges and look for them because in the expansion joints and stuff of bridges, they get up in there and roost. Different ones. And so anytime they were doing bridge work in certain areas, we had to be aware that there could be, bats roosting on that bridge. Now, this is an evening bat. It's in this area too, but I don't know. I've never caught one of those guys. Some of these I never saw and don't know anything about that bat. All these bats have some bit of threat or endanger, but most things are these days. But encroachment to habitat, and especially these tree bats, or the ones that roost in trees in the summer, they're losing habitat like crazy. And there's the size. In that hand, that's a person's hand. Of course, this one in the left is too, but that's a big one. Most bats only weigh 4 or 5 grams. They're tiny, little. They don't weigh anything.
Hey,
Just little bitty critters.
no.
This was, I thought, an interesting character. This is a Florida Bonneted Bat. And the way the ears are formed and that ridge across there, they think that looks like a bonnet. And they're in Florida, but they're primarily just right down on the tip of Florida. So I can only imagine that they're in trouble because that area has been so developed that they're bound to be running out of habitat unless they've adapted to living, places, human structures. And here's a close-up. You can see its face, which ain't the prettiest bat I've ever seen. And that's a pup on the far right. That's a pup or a little one or a kid or whatever they call them. What I thought was cool, that middle shot shows that white band on their chest area. I don't think I've ever seen a bat with that kind of marking on it. None I've ever caught were like that anyway. With that much obvious, different color. I thought this guy was kind of cool. He's not up here. He's Central and South America, but he eats frogs. And he's called a fringe-lipped or frog-eating bat, which is a good name for a bat that eats frogs. So he hunts in the jungle and up in the foliage and catches those little tree frogs. And this is a fringe Myotis. He's another western bat. He probably gets up in your country a little bit more, or gets real close.
Yeah, we have those.
Do you know anything about them?
No,
I didn't take the time.
I don't know much about any bats, but a little bit.
I wasn't sure what the fringe on this one was in reference to. I don't know if it's again on their face or if it's got something to do with their wings or what. But I didn't read up on him to see on this one. I was probably getting tired, possibly. I thought this guy had an interesting name.
Party at Mark's house. Yeah.
What? Party at Mark's.
That's a wild little youngin running around.
Carol said, I wonder if I've ever seen any of these species in the sky. The only ones I've ever seen up close in the wild were little browns. You probably have, Carol. I bet up there you've probably seen gray bats and big browns. Maybe seen grays. They're more Midwestern, Southern, but they have a pretty. I'll pull up a screen here in a minute. They have kind of a unique habitat range also. And Indiana's are actually a little bit broader, but they're more endangered than grays. But any of these bats that spend the winter in a cave are really threatened by white nose syndrome. And I've actually heard cavers, spelunkers, or whatever, people that explore. Some people like to map caves, and they get down in them and spend hours and hours or days even. And they'll map them, and they always talk about how much they're doing good things for everybody because they're mapping caves and telling them where bats are. But what they didn't know, or some don't know, is they're carrying white nose syndrome into these caves on their boots. And when they get inside, then it spreads, and then the bats get it, and then the bats die. And there have been colonies in the Northeast. This is where I first heard about it, and they were dying off by the tens of thousands up there, just like a whole colony in a cave of maybe several. I mean, I've heard numbers in the many tens of thousands, and millions of bats have actually died from that disease or that fungus.
Which is a bad deal for us.
It's a really bad deal for us because those guys just about eat their weight in mosquitoes every night.
Yep.
It's from the short wire-like hairs found on the membranes between their legs. Well, that's what I figured it was too, Ian, but I wasn't sure because it didn't. When I was just looking up pictures and range maps, I do have a bunch more information on them, but I haven't got it out to read it right now. But this is a ghost face bat, which I thought was sort of a strange name. But look how close his eyes are to his ears. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's an odd looking bat.
It is an odd looking bat. Got a weird mouth too.
We had those. Looks like we had those in southern New Mexico.
Yeah, might have had them down there in the Boot Hill where you were at.
Interesting. Wonder if they're solitary like tree bats.
I think they are. A lot of these are.
Those odd looking bats are almost always like not cave bats. They're some kind of a tree bat.
And a lot of those guys like that one live in warmer climates too. Okay, there's the gray bat. And you can see it's primarily, it is further south from you, Carol. But it's in this area. It covers Tennessee and Kentucky. And we have lots of these in our caves down here. So this was a primary species that was getting hammered in this part of the country from white nose syndrome. And they do TVA still does regular counts, biologists. Every winter we've got caves that we know have bats that we've gated, and some that we haven't gated yet, or they hadn't when I left. And they do regular counts there in the evenings to see approximately how many bats they have. Okay, Ian, back to work, back to the salt mine. But if I know you, you'll be around somewhere.
Darn internet.
Yeah, darn internet. And this is another picture of a gray bat with his mouth wide open. And here's a small group of them hanging out together in their colony. Don't know if this was a wintertime picture. These guys sleep in caves at night, so they kind of move in and out of their caves, and it may be the same cave they winter in. Some of them do move a little bit to different caves, but that's what a cluster of them looks like on top of a cave roof. But doesn't he look soft and cute like a Chihuahua, Cherie? Doesn't he look a little bit like JoJo in the face? She has a Chihuahua. There's a hoary bat.
That's
And
one
I've
of my
never
favorites.
caught or seen one of these guys either, but they say they're all over the country. So
We caught those fairly regularly here in Wyoming. They're solitary. I mean, you don't catch like if you put mist nets up to catch them, you're not going to catch like even more than one in an evening because they're just so solitary.
Well, where we trap bats, where we were trapping, usually had something to do with a project that went through the woods or a forested area or along the lake. And a lot of these bats, like grays and Indianas, will feed over water.
Right.
And so they get out. You'll see them at night out over the lake just scooping up mosquitoes. And but some of them aren't out there after that. Some of these bats eat moths. Those pallid bats, which I've got a picture of here in a minute, eat scorpions and spiders and all kinds of things like that on the ground. So they depending on their appetite or their diet, it depends a lot on where they roost and where they hang out.
Well, and it's not, we never did it intentionally, but we used to occasionally catch a bat on fly rods when we'd be fishing at dusk around a pond.
Yeah.
And you'd you're false casting that fly and the bats would snatch it.
I don't think I've ever had that happen.
And that's not, my cousin and I caught like 4 one night. It was crazy.
Were you able to get them off the hook?
No, it was just clip it. Of course we were still kids and it was like, we didn't want rabies.
Oh, well, yeah.
I mean, because, that's all the adults we knew told us never to handle bats and never to deal, don't touch them, don't do nothing.
They've all got rabies.
Yep. But yeah, it's they're way faster than a fly rod, I can tell you that.
Yeah, they are. I'll have to agree with that. I don't think I've ever hooked one.
Caught a blue jay like that one time too. So
was that on purpose?
No, it was just with a popper. It just flew out of a tree and grabbed it.
Oh, I never thought about a blue jay doing that, but I sure couldn't. Random things. What random thing, Brenda? I've got some random things. Oh, Ian's typing random things. I've got some random bats and things at the end of this, just some I threw in there that I didn't get time to look up. Here's the Indianas, and these guys gave us a lot of work because they were in a lot of trouble. Again, they winter in caves, so that puts them at risk, and then they depend on trees, and they're kind of specific trees. What we used to call a bat tree was a tree that had either very loose bark or shaggy bark, hickories, for example, or a dead snag that had loose bark on it, or a tree that was split and had cracks in it. Anything like that they could get into, that's where they roosted at night. But the other thing was, that's also where they gave birth, and their young were. They used them as nursery areas, if you will. We would probably refer to it. And
maternity roost.
Yeah, maternity roost. There you go. Thank you. And so that was a big concern when people were cutting down a lot of trees in a given area. There was concern that they were starting to really impact these guys' habitat for roosting, and especially maternity roost, because it would eventually hit into the numbers. Now, while that was a big deal for us because we were dealing with trees, And the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the Forest Service and those people really got serious about this one. And we had to monitor every site where people were going to be doing any clearing, if there was going to be any tree cutting, and there was a lot of extra work, which I didn't mind so much. I'm sure the people paying for it probably did, but the big problem was the white nose syndrome and where they were living, or it's not living but hibernating. But then when you knock down if you kill them in the wintertime and then you destroy their birthing areas, maternity areas, then you've got twofold problem. You've got dead adults and they're not raising viable young, and that's a big problem. Okay, let me knock that off. Brenda's going to bring the chips to Mark's house. And Karki says, Brenda, you're putting Ian out of a job. He types random things. You make funny yet frightening comments, remember? Okay, let's see. I don't know if I got any more pictures of these guys or not. Yeah, I had to put this one in there. Look at the size of that colony. And here's where it said Indiana bats lose anywhere from 10 to 30 days worth of their limited fat reserves during every spontaneous arousal from torpor, which is a form of hibernation. A lot of animals in the South that hibernate are actually more of in torpor, where they're just in a long sleep kind of thing, not full hibernation. These disturbances or arousals are caused by human disturbance of their hibernaculum, which is another word for where they hide out in the winter. And multiple disturbances during a cold winter can cause Indiana bat mortality. And this is one of the things we were try to explain to people about going into bat caves, because I will admit it's pretty cool to go in and see that kind of a colony of bats. But just by going in there, you're putting them at risk of white nose syndrome, and then also this risk of arousal or waking them up in the middle of the winter, and they can't find food that time of year. They can't be out, and yet they're awake. So that changes their whole their body systems. They're trying to get kick started again, but they can't, and then they basically end up starving to death if it happens too much. So it's sometimes really hard to get people to understand that.
Hibernaculum.
What somebody
Yeah.
can translate those
those big words.
Mark knows more big ones than I do.
That spot where they hibernate. That
spot where they hibernate, yeah. Also have hibernaculums, Ian. At least they do back here. I don't know about out your way. They probably do out there too. I figured out that place where me and you and your dad and your mom came up on those 3 prairie rattlers together that were all gravid. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That
was right there by Philmont.
Yeah, in New Mexico, right. It was in the Cimarron Valley area or river canyon. Right. And that was probably a maternity area that those snakes probably came to every year or every other year, whatever, when they gave birth.
Right.
And, I learned more about that when I went back to school. I didn't know that they did that sort of thing, but apparently they do.
Well, and that's the problem with rattlesnakes in the East, especially, because and here's a squirrel. They're a little more plastic or elastic or a little more flexible in where they'll go to hibernate in the West. Prairie rattlesnakes especially. But like timber rattlesnakes, they have a spot that's where they go. And when that's destroyed, they're gone. They don't move over to the next ridge and hibernate there.
Carol thought the hibernaculum was one of those birds and bees terms. Well, there's probably some hanky panky going on there, Carol, but they don't give birth there. Yeah, and that's the problem back east. Some people would have figured out or did where those hibernaculums were, because those snakes would go to them every winter, and they'll go in there and fish them out of there, so to speak.
Yep.
And kill them off, kill bunches of them. They did an article in the Nashville paper when I was living down there about some guys that went out every year in the wintertime. They knew where there were several hibernaculums, probably for copperheads and rattlesnakes. And they would take a fishing pole and put a treble hook on it and flip it back in those hibernaculums as far as they could, and just snag snakes and pull them out of the hibernaculum and kill them, because they said they bit their coon dogs or rabbit. I don't know what, but anyway, they bit their dogs, whatever, which they may or may not have done, and may or may not have killed or hurt the dog. But anyway, they were killing them off like crazy. And I do believe to this day that rattlesnakes in this part of the country are damn near gone, and maybe copperheads too. I know I've told a lot of people, I spent 23 years hiking the woods at TVA, and I saw one copperhead that had been hit by a tractor. I never saw a rattlesnake the whole time I worked there. And I was in the woods all the time in places that at one time were known for having a lot of rattlesnakes, supposedly.
Right.
And of course, back here you got people collecting them for church use, and then you got other recreational activities. But it's anyway. That is a big squirrel, but that is a. If you keep saying that word, I'm going to be the one that needs a pacifier. Snake or hibernaculum? Which one?
Hibernaculum sounds like a huge water spider. Hibernaculum. You need to switch to just the Bat Cave and be done.
The Bat Cave. Okay, well, let's call it the Bat Cave. How about that, Carol? This is a little brown. These guys are known to get up in your house. It was either a little brown or a big brown. I caught. There's not that much difference in them. There is a size difference and some other things that you can, believe it or not, you can measure the ear right on the inside here from this little earpiece, which I can't remember the name of, up to the tip of the ear. Tragus. And that's one of the identifying traits.
There's another good word.
Yeah, how about that one, Ian or Carol? Tragus. I think I can spell that. I think it's
Tragus. Tragus.
Yeah, that's Tragus is what I thought it was. So how about that one? How about we use Tragus for a few minutes instead of hibernaculum? Hibernaculum and the bees. Bees don't hibernaculum, so see, that's where it throws it all off. Anyway, that's a little brown. And see, ain't he cute? I mean, who wouldn't want to pet that? And these are tricolored bats, which had me really confused until I read up on them again and realized that was what we used to call eastern pipistrelles. They've changed the name on me. Scientific name's still the same, which right this minute I don't have down here. I've got that somewhere here in my notes, but don't know if I've got it handy. I can't get to it. But that's the eastern pip, and we found quite a few of those in nets. We netted a lot of those guys and found a lot of those under bridges and things too. And according to this notes I read, some 59% of the range of tricolored bats lies in the core area affected by the white nose syndrome. So that's a concern also, although we seem to catch plenty of pipistrelles, but I don't know. They may be in more trouble than I realized. What? I got to keep up with what's going on.
An itchy tragus finger.
which is bad, Ian, because I got a real light tragus, hair tragus.
Hair tragus.
That's hairs in my ear. I'm an old man. Oh man, I gotta be careful. I'll be spitting coffee on the screen. This is one, Mark. Did you ever see these guys out in the desert?
Yeah, and we actually, so that I can tell you that range map is not correct.
Okay.
Because one of my coworkers and I found the first 4 of those ever recorded in Wyoming.
Really?
And yeah, we caught them mist netting around a lake one night, and they're such a cool bat because they fly along the ground just above the ground, and then they hear like longhorn beetles and grasshoppers and scorpions walking, and they land and actually stalk them on the ground and catch them on the ground. They don't catch them from the air. So
wow,
just a cool.
So they're not echolocating, and they're actually hearing them.
Yeah, so they're hearing them with those great big ears, and then landing and hunting them on the ground. I always thought the ones I saw in Arizona look very similar to that photo. Yeah. Kind of yellowish colored body hair and the
Shelly. Sorry, Mark. Good morning, Shelly.
Hey, Shelly.
We're talking bats today.
The ones we found in Wyoming were a little browner. I mean, a little more like a kind of a grizzled color on their body, and their wings are real chocolate color. They always reminded me of like a kind of a typical color grizzly bear. And if you're a longhorn beetle, they're definitely a grizzly bear.
I bet. Hey, thanks, Tony, for stopping by Phantasmic Chronicles. Good to see you this morning. Yeah, I like that the picture there. If you can't tell what he's eating, that's a scorpion. And some of these bats, I don't think it was these guys, but some of these are really faster than. I mean, I thought all bats were fast. They can react and turn and move in some amazing ways. I mean, literally on a dime. Everybody says UFOs can't make those movements. Well, bats can. But these guys, like Mark said, they hunt things on the ground, and that's a pretty good sized scorpion that was. Of course, bear in mind that the bat's not very big. That's interesting that you guys found the first ones in Wyoming. That's cool.
Yeah, and they may have been in the western part of the state, but they'd never been documented in those counties we were working in over there. So pretty cool. And they're big bats too.
Oh, are they? Okay.
Yeah, they're about yay wide across the wings, you know.
Oh, okay. Well, this is an Underwood's bonneted bat, and you can see it's kind of got that head like that other one did earlier. And it gets up into Arizona some, so I put it in the thing. I mean, I could have added a lot of bats that were in Central and South America that I didn't. And this one's primarily down that way, but you can see by this map, if this map is correct, they have been found in Arizona. So,
yeah, just in those Sky Islands right there.
Yeah.
Well,
do what?
All just in that like stuff southwest of Tucson, looks like.
Oh, okay. And you ever see any of these Western Reds?
No.
I mean, they look somewhat like the Eastern. Now, I don't know that they're that bright red. I've got a feeling that's a lighting issue, but those Eastern red bats are that more of that color all over. These guys look like it's maybe more on their head and shoulders and their cape area, if you will, than all over. But the Eastern reds, everything on them is red like that.
Well, that's the most interesting range map I've ever seen drawn.
Yeah, and I didn't go back and research all these 2 or 3 times. I found some and used them, the ones that I could use. But I mean, I can't absolutely verify some of these. But
they're using counties. Like we found it in this county and we found it in that county, and they drew that line as straight as
Yeah.
an arrow. And
Well, that could very well be because I know
Wyoming and
you're right,
Colorado and
counties.
the east edge of New Mexico.
So the guy on the left is a Yuma Bat. Again, it's a western bat, primarily
I've seen
California.
those.
And then the western yellow bat, I'm not sure he's northern. So if you saw that guy, it was probably New Mexico or Arizona. I don't think they've gotten that much further than that. As you can see, the picture is like a palmetto leaf. So they definitely more of a in the tropics or subtropics, whatever we call that down there along that area. And I think they dip pretty far down into Mexico and Honduras. And then I've got some random bats, which I thought were pretty cool. We got a lesser longnose here on the left, and those guys, as you can see from this picture, are pollinators. They're feeding on nectar or bugs in this flower top. And I think this is some kind of a cactus top, although I can't verify that. I can't see it, but I believe that's what they are. And that is a more western species. The ones on the right, I couldn't help but put these in there, even though they're Honduran bats. I've never seen a white bat till I found these pictures.
That's cool.
And they're obviously an arboreal species, and I don't know if these are a group of young or if this is just how they hang out together, at night and stuff, or in the daytime, I mean. Which is one thing about bats. If you want to go out and take pictures of them, they're roosting in the daytime, so the light's better.
Well,
they stay pretty busy.
So that long-nosed bat that's feeding on that's probably an agave top. One of my bosses in Arizona actually kind of pioneered photographing those kind of bats.
Oh, really?
And they had rigged up a kind of a frame around the plant.
Yeah.
That had an infrared deal, and when the bat would come in to feed, it detected the movement, and then the camera would flash, and you had you weren't operating it manually; it was setting itself off.
When was that?
Like a camera trap.
Yeah.
That would have been in the early 2000s.
So he probably had digital cameras.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's been a boom with digital. I've seen some of the best photographs of bats like this one. Who knows? He might have taken this one. I don't remember who made that or if it's sad. But hummingbirds and bugs, things that move real fast and are hard to get photos of, electronic digital cameras have made a lot of that more possible.
Yeah.
They have very high shutter speeds, and you can put motion detectors on them and with them, and you don't have to do like Barney did, run a string from the bookshelf up the wall and over to the Polaroid land camera up in the ceiling or whatever he used to do.
Well, they were doing that for bats, and they were doing that for all those little like elf owls and things of that nature.
Oh, cool.
You could rig up this basically kind of a lattice deal to get the height up to the top of the plant, and then photograph, where you didn't have to be
right
operating the camera,
which makes all the difference in the world.
Yep.
Yeah, Tony, if you're still on here, I hope your wife's doing well. She had surgery a couple of days ago, yesterday actually. I hope she's doing okay. Shelly says she has seen some of these pictures. Shelly, this was the first time I'd seen these white ones, and I thought I had a picture of another white species. It was also from South America or Central or South America, but last night I couldn't find it, so I might have just thought I saw one. And let's see what's next. These actually gone through a lot faster than I thought I would, which is good. I mean, it still takes me so long. Huh? Here's a couple of unique. I put some of these in here because they're kind of unique or interesting. Usually in how they feed, it's relative to how they feed or what they feed on. Like there's a Mexican long-nosed bat, and these long-nosed and this Mexican long-tongued bat tend to eat in flower, tend to feed in flowers and things, and sometimes they're the primary pollinator for certain plant species, and that's very important because we're always talking about pollinators, and usually most people, the first thing they think about are honeybees or bumblebees maybe, but there's all kind of other animals pollinate also. And these, I've got a picture. Oh, did I not get that in here? I've got a picture I want to show in a minute of
those long-nosed bats are like the primary pollinator for agaves.
Okay.
And for saguaros. And in the Sonoran Desert, that bats are super important for plants.
And I thought I'd show this. They do have a mouthful of teeth. That's a big brown on the left there. They look at, I mean, they look like, honestly, they look like little foxes or something. You talk about the flying foxes that are big, but all these guys just about have got a mouthful of teeth that to me look like a little dog or a cat even, but they look more canid. And it's just, you don't really want them to chomp down on you. Not really. We always wore thick leather gloves when we handled them, and they would bite on your hand. And sometimes you could feel it because they got pretty strong jaw muscles, but for the size of them, because they're all, like I said, they're all tiny. But I'm thinking if they could sink those into your fleshy parts, they'd make an impression. And the guy on the right, and I can't remember what he is, he's got a lot smaller teeth. But he still has pretty much the same kind of thing, but it's just different. Oh, look, Ian, he's got a great big long tragus. We won't talk about that in front of the brown because his tragus ain't so big. Ian, that does look like it would hurt, and it would. I promise you it would. And like I said, I've been chewed on with a glove on, and you could feel it in your finger through the glove. So you knew real quick you didn't want them chewing on you. And then we got bats with big ears. Look at the one on the left has got really big ears. And the guy on the right's big, but not as big. And that is oh man, what is that? I looked that up. I don't think that's in Indiana. They scoop down over water puddles, though, and ponds. That's where we used to catch a lot of them. And we'd pick places along a road because they, of course, tend to fly through openings. So a trail or something through the woods, they'll use that as a corridor when they're hunting. And if there's big puddles of water in them, as you know, Mark, 2 tracks up here anyway tend to have big mud holes in them, thanks to 4-wheelers usually. But they'll use those mud puddles to scoop up water to drink or catch mosquitoes over. And so we would set up traps, mist net traps above those areas to catch them.
Right.
That's a really good picture too. Somebody got that's
that's great.
That's dark, and that picture is no blur in that. That's a great picture. So Shelly, I want to see your bat picture soon now. Keep those targets and teeth away from me, Ian said. Man, we got legs and tails. This guy that's in the left hand that's blacked out, that's a long-legged bat. That's a southwestern or maybe Mexican species. And the guy on the right, I told you the difference between a free tail and a tail, the other kind, which is like this one. And I had a picture, and I don't think this is the right one, but there is a bat called a pocket tail bat. And they can actually use this tail area. Maybe most bats can, for that matter. Now that I think about it, I think I had a guy tell me that once. Most of them, but they fly along, they can use this almost like a catcher's mitt.
Yeah.
And they can snatch bugs up or catch bugs in that little pocket right there and then eat them afterwards. Maybe a bigger bug or something they don't quite catch or they can fly through. And some bats use that particularly to catch their food. So that's a neat, really cool adaptation too. And then I wanted to talk just to mention bat houses and things people can do to, help bats, because bats are way more important than most people realize. And I thought these were kind of interesting. One thing most of these have in common, that upper right-hand picture shows how the bat's getting around there. That's what a lot of these look like on the inside, because bats they get between the layers or the sheets, and then they use these grooves to climb up. We used to put sometimes a mesh on top of the inside the boxes for them to climb up, or groove the boards like this when they were building them. Something else we were messing with, and I wasn't there. I don't know if they're still gathering results or not, but we were putting up houses on poles kind of like this, and then we were wrapping them with bark or an artificial bark. I'm not sure which they were using, but to give that more of a real tree appearance, so the bats could land on the bark and use it to climb up into the boxes. And it gave them a better purchase as they got up in there, and it seemed more natural. And they were starting to get some response on those when I left, but I don't know if they turned out to be a better deal than just a smooth pole like that or not.
Yeah, I've got 2 boxes like that, those on poles, that old telephone poles out here in my yard, and then I've got, I don't know, 3 or 4 other boxes that I've attached to the south face of my barn, and they all of them get used.
That's good,
which is pretty cool. But then, I mean, they're all over in the barn, and I got a lot of hidey holes for them, the chicken house. And
yeah, that would work, Shelly. She said she's got a lot of white birch bark. Bats can get in some tiny, you'd be amazed at how many bats can get in between 2 layers of something like those boards there. They can flatten themselves out amazingly, and then they'll all scooch under there and get up against each other so they conserve all that heat. And I guess they don't rotate it well in the wintertime. They're in there mostly in the summer, but if they are using them for wintertime use, they get close together. I don't guess the ones on the outside get to move around, because they don't move around unless somebody wakes them up. These bottom boxes, this one in the middle, Florida, and these are some of the biggest bat houses that anybody's got out there we know of. And if those bat houses are as big as they look, those things can probably hold thousands of bats. I just can't imagine. And the one on the lower right-hand corner, these are in Texas, and there's a place down there, and I don't know exactly where it is, but there were several different ones, but they all look basically like this. And these are bat houses that they've used down there historically for a long time, I guess. So somebody down there knew bats were important, and they weren't just killing them all off or anything.
Well, the ag people down there, like there was some subdivision that wanted to like nuke one of these great big cave, type hibernacula.
Yeah.
That was the agricultural people like got word of that and put a kibosh to that, not only to the destroying of the cave, but to the whole development. So that was a good lick there.
Well, that's a good lick, because bats, critters don't tend to win out over people very often.
They were figuring that one system of caves right there, it was somewhere off the Edwards Plateau, and not too far from like Austin or somewhere. And they were figuring that one colony was, eating like 1 million pounds of insects a night.
Wow. They eat all kinds of beetles that eat. There's some that specialize in like cucumber bugs and potato bugs, and
yeah,
bats are cool. They are amazingly important to agriculture. And Shelley said left one is more common. Yeah, that lower left one, that gray box, which looks very weathered, that's kind of more common than what you see out there. And I've put up some of those too, and we used to give some away to people if they wanted to put them up.
What you doing, buddy?
How many bats do you want to house? Are you asking me that, Shelley? Those are almost bigger than my house, Ian says. Everything is bigger in Texas. Yeah, it is. That's what I thought too. And everything's bigger in Texas, so they had to build bigger bat houses. And Shelley said that's a new style of tiny house. Ian, I don't know what the number would be, Shelley, for how many you want to house, but actually, the more the better. They're in such trouble in places that any help is going to be important. I think down the road. Like I said, so many of them that spend their winters in caves are or were very susceptible, and some of those caves that still have fungus in them, as far as I know, they were working on ways to try to sterilize those caves and get rid of that fungus, but I don't know how successful that's been. And that might be my last slide formally. Oh yeah, that's the end. So let's go take a nap. And there's a whole bunch of guys hanging out together.
Well, I got a squirrel for you. My two grandbabies just came into the room and said, "Grandpa, we just went through the dog door."
Oh boy. Oh, that's not good.
They were supposed to be outside with Grandma.
So they snuck back in through the dog door?
They came through the dog door. See's clear, see through.
Oh, and that's the see-through baby, Carol. Shelley, hey, Diana.
Here, let me have that.
I want a house small enough to keep the neighbors away.
You're still
Yeah, we're still on here.
Dan said dog doors are a kid's rite of passage.
There, your hands are
You're going
washed.
to come home one day, and one of them's going to be half in, half out, stuck.
Yeah. Okay.
on.
Down you go. Go play.
Let me find that. I want to find that. I want to pull that pollinating bat up because this is an amazing photo. There he was. Look at this guy. I don't know what this is, and I can't tell by looking at him. And you'll see why. Look at that guy. You talk about covered in pollen. Now that yeah, Mark's grandkids do too, definitely. You're muted, Mark.
Yeah, that's on purpose. There's a lot of hollering going on.
I see. Check out that guy. That's some kind of a leaf nose bat. I don't know if I don't think that's a California, but look at the pollen on that.
He's
dude.
been in a flower.
Yeah, he has. Now,
Clear down in it.
I'd call that a professional pollinator. You still talking to the Tennessee Peregrine Paul? Which Paul you know? Ian said the kids want to know if you're still talking to that Tennessee bear. And he is.
You want more juice?
Yeah, that's a cool photo.
Yeah, it is. Let me see if I've got anybody else in there. I think I had a couple more that I thought would be interesting, but I didn't get them on there. And again, I might not. Oh, I did have a spotted bat, and I didn't get that in there. But here's a spotted. I don't know if this is ones you've had or seen. Then again, this might be the only car in North America. They look anything like that?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's a spotted. Now that I look at him, I see why they call him that. He looks a little bit like a pinto.
Yeah, they've got a couple big white spots on their back they're cool.
And here's another picture of a free-tailed bat. See, it's hanging out there.
Yeah, and that's what we're gonna be seeing those next week. So
yeah, you will. You will.
Millions of them.
And here's an example. Where'd it go? I just had it.
And it's funny, they call that species down there at Carlsbad, they used to call it a Mexican free-tailed bat. Now they call it a Brazilian free-tailed bat.
Yeah.
And it only occupies a real small, like, coastal part of Brazil, and it covers almost the entire country of Mexico, except for the Yucatan. And
I don't understand names sometimes.
I don't either. And they change them up on you. And
well, like I said, when I quit working doing environmental reviews and things, and tips drills, now they don't call them that.
Now they're tricolored bats.
And here's what that fungus looks like grown in a petri dish, the white nose fungus.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a pleasant picture. I mean,
nasty stuff.
Nasty stuff. Apparently nothing worth, That map was another projected map of white nose movement, which is kind of discouraging. And then when they get weakened by white nose syndrome, then these guys can get on them and attack them. These are mites.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I was wondering if these mites are what actually eat the holes in their wings. I was told at one time that we thought, and maybe it is something to do with the white nose fungus, but it makes me wonder if the white nose fungus isn't weakening the bats, and then these guys are chewing them up more so because they're in a weakened state or a stress state. And if that ain't a handsome thing right there.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to even imagine that there's stuff like that living on the planet.
Yeah, we probably got something real similar running around
and in your house and wherever.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, I already shown that one. I'm just going to run through these while I got them pulled up. There's another long ear and a long tragus. And I can't remember what this guy is. Oh, this is a Seminole bat. It's another kind of localized Florida bat that's in trouble because of development. I don't remember what that guy is, but he's got a wise look on his face. Rat snake. Another bat. That's a good picture there. That might be the one I showed earlier, but he's got a bunch of that guy. I'm not sure what those are, but they got flat noses. Those guys got kind of pig noses. That's that Western red. Whoop. That's a good close-up. See, that guy doesn't look, bad or aggressive. He looks friendly.
Unless she was holding him.
Do what?
Unless she was holding him in your hand.
Yeah, that might be different. Let me run back through some of these I already showed. I've got a few more here. Might as well run through them at the front because there could be something else here that's. Oh, Charlie, I didn't really put any fox bats in here because there are a couple of bats in the northern hemisphere, that this part of the world, where they do call fox bats or flying foxes, but they're not nearly as big as those big fruit bats that they have in Asia and stuff, like in places like that, and probably in Brazil and areas. I'm sure they've got bigger ones down there. Here's a little drawing of a little brown that shows how the wings laid out. And when you're identifying these species, you're doing things like weighing them, identifying this tail, maybe the length of the tail, maybe the length of these arm or hand bones. Actually, if you think about these guys, these are basically just like our arm and hands are made, and the fingers are out here, making or spread in the wing. So the skeletal, while that may look really weird, it's not nearly as odd as it could be, I suppose. And Mark might be saying something like that next week.
Yep.
I started saying, speaking of hawks, I thought it'd say there's a hawk getting one right there, but that's not. It's just the way there's two bats running together there or something. Long tongue, long nose. Another different kind of free tail. Scooping water. Really like that picture. There's a little close up on it. I think that's a gray with his mouth open. The pollinator. That looks like a little bitty guy, but I honestly am not sure how close they are. But it looks to me like he's got a bad case of white nose.
Yep.
There you go, Shelley. What do you think about that guy? I don't have a video, but I'm sure I could dig one up real quick, but I don't at this point. That's, if I'm not mistaken, this is a flying fox out of Central America. It might be a Jamaican fruit bat or a Mexican fruit bat. And these guys sometimes do hit the lower United States, but they're not as big as the ones like at Disney World has at the Animal Kingdom, or the ones you see at zoos a lot, because those guys are really big. But it's still a similar creature. I don't remember what that guy is either. He's got a flat nose. I don't know, but I don't think that's a winter nesting. I think that's, cave dwelling bats in the summer or something, because they just don't look it. And there's that whole ceiling covered with them. I think that's just really cool. And I believe the picture I read on this said these were supposedly Indiana bats going into a cave, but I'm not sure if that's true. Those guys almost look like owls. They look so big. They're not nearly that big. Hello. I mean, if you can handle it. Hey, Shelley, there's you some. You saw these. Never mind. You were here when I showed those guys. That's another hoary bat. Another bonneted bat of some sort. More cave bats. Somebody's not too happy. And there's a pup. I think that's that. What was the name of that? It's one of those bonneted bats. I can't remember the name of that one. But look at that. It's got looks like a hairless cat almost. And that's that white mark. That's that bonneted. There's another one. Bite me. Don't bite me. Embarrass both of us here. That one's tagged. Look. Left wing. I don't remember if we were tagging the ones we were catching at that time or not. We were just counting bats and we were trying to figure out if we had any Indiana area where we were trapping. That would have slowed things up tremendously. But yeah, I had a lot of pictures to go through last night. All right, I'm going to shut this down. I know I've got some more pictures, but everybody's probably ready to take a nap. Okay. So that's my story about bats.
Bats is cool.
Bats are cool, and they're really important, and they're not nearly as scary as some people think. Like Mark said, his mother was always scared. My mom, she was one of them kind that didn't want bats. She's scared to death if she saw a bat or didn't want to see them. If she'd seen one in the house like we had right here, it would have really freaked her out. Brenda has a funny story. I don't know if she's still watching, but when I think it was when Kelly was getting married, but it could have been a different occasion. We went up to State Park up on Norris, a Big Ridge, one of the first state parks in Tennessee. It was one of the places that TVA gave the land to the state to build a park on. And the CCC built the camps and did all that amazing stonework and all that kind of stuff. Campgrounds, I mean, and buildings and whatnot. And so they rented a cabin so they'd be there early the next morning. And when she worked for the school, she was in state payroll, so she got a discount for state parks and things. Oh, you didn't go Batty. That's good, Ian. And your internet was down, so we kept you busy. Careful to the back cave. And anyway, there are several of them there. Brenda and Kelly, I think. Brenda, maybe a couple of Kelly's buddies or a couple of Jen's buddies. And then sometime in the middle of the night, Jen starts yelling, screaming, crying bloody murder. And Brenda, I guess, turned the light on, and she's trying to figure out what it was. And there was 2 or 3 bats in there flying around in that cabin that they had disturbed, I suppose. And instead of going outside for whatever reason, they came inside the cabin, and she shoot them out Brenda had to get up and shoot them out with a broom. But the bad part about it was when you turned the light on, it had a ceiling fan in that cabin, and they kept running into that ceiling fan, or a couple of them did anyway. And maybe that's how she caught them to put them out. Brenda put them outside, and but it was quite the story to tell. I don't know if she's still in here. She could tell it a lot better than I could because I wasn't there. But I heard about it. My girls are usually not that bad. I mean, they used to pick up snakes and bring them to me and, show me and tell me what they were and stuff. So I was a little surprised they were afraid of a little bitty bat. But you never know, I guess, until you got one flying around your head. Anybody got any questions?
They're a little disconcerting when they're buzzing you close.
Yeah, well, that's true. Hey, Kelly, the Mickey Bunch is here. You just missed my amazing slideshow all about bats. And if everybody's not sound asleep, then they're hanging around to talk bats this morning. Or they have been anyway. I've talked so much I've about lost my voice. Thanks for stopping by. Tell James Ryan I said, hey, if he's nearby, he could stop. He could stick his head in the door. James might be the only guy I know from New York that I like. And he's a lawyer at that. Bats, oh my. Yeah, we had a lot of pictures, and if you get time to look at some of the rerun or replay, you can tell me what you think. But so now we can do a little bit of squirrel chasing, and we'll get out of here. I mean, if we got anything if we got any more to chase. We were talking about something before I was going to bring up if we had a chance. Now I don't remember what it was. It probably had to do with hunting or building something. Hey, when you sent me that picture that day, you said you were horse poor. Was that just the usual herd, or did you pick up some more?
Me?
Yeah. Didn't you send me a picture?
No, I said I was rich in ponies.
Rich in ponies. Well, that's what I
Yeah.
meant.
No, we didn't. We don't have extras. It was just they were standing there, all of them standing together, sleeping in the sun. I
That's
just
kind
thought
of
it was a cool looking picture.
for a small spread or whatever. It's pretty impressive herd of horse.
I got a grandson that's froze.
He's froze.
Yeah, it's cold.
Oh, he's been outside.
Yeah. He was out there and he's running around, no coat on, and
Well, that's good.
well, he needs his coat if he's going to go back outside.
Needs to get cold once in a while.
Yeah.
Bugs out.
Find your coat. I'll give Abby her medicine later.
How's that greenhouse doing?
Beautiful.
Did you hear that?
No.
My wife said it was beautiful.
We just spent half hour in there because it's so warm.
That's where she's been.
Oh, so it was. I did hear her say it was warm.
Yeah, they've been watering plants. So yeah,
Cool.
it's a hit.
For those who might not know, Mark he ordered and bought and got a greenhouse in it. He put together last week. Is that last week?
It took me about a week and a half. It was the most aggravating thing I've ever built in my life. But
so now they're going to be growing even more fruits or vegetables in their own personal greenhouse.
we're going to be doing the CBD thing.
Yeah, you could probably grow a couple of small plants.
Yeah,
they probably grow well out there.
we got more tomato plants than Carter's got liver pills.
Yeah, you had some impressive tomato plants. They were still in the house.
Yeah, everybody's outside now. Just about everybody's outside. So, and it's been getting down the 20s the last couple nights, and it's staying. I put a chicken heat lamp out in it, and it's been staying nice and toasty. So all is well.
See what Ian said.
Yeah, Ian's and it's legal in Ian's country.
Wow, Shelley, that's a big greenhouse. 13 by 34. What do you mean you're digging out? About 6 feet down. What do you mean by that? You're actually digging down inside, or you're digging it out from under snow, or make it so can grow for longer. Well, that's cool. That's a bit 13 by 14, 34. That's a pretty good sized greenhouse.
Yeah,
I worked in some really big ones at UT for a while where we were growing trees and things, but underground greenhouse. Okay.
Ours is only like 10 by 10. And it's all that we wanted. But I put a bed on one side of it, dug it down into the ground, kind of a cold frame bed, and then my wife's just got potted, all the potted plants, the tomatoes and things, just in big, growing pots, and they're doing wonderful.
You could probably put some like stair-step shelves on one side and have several things going on.
Yeah, that's kind of what we got, and then hanging plant deals too, and we've got.
So you can hang. You've got things to hang on in there. You can try to do some hydroponic or whatever they call it, with roots exposed and spray water on them. And I've seen them grow. I've seen tomatoes and things grown that way.
Yeah.
Or tomatoes upside down. Have you ever seen that? Brenda was going to do that one year. You can grow a tomato upside down in a pot. Maybe, I'm not sure. Maybe you plant the tomato seedling in a hole in the top of the pot, upside, where it'd be upside down, and then you turn it up, and the plant hangs down, and you hang the pot up this way with the big end up. And I guess you'd water it from that end, but they actually grow out down. So you don't have to stake them or anything. Oh, Shelley says she plants some of hers upside down. And her son's girlfriend from California has moved in with us. That's a very nice smile, Shelley. So how do you think it does so far, Shelley, with them upside down? Oh, I didn't think about that. Yeah, you can grow something in the top of the pot that way too. Well, that's cool. I didn't think about that. Yeah, that's a real good idea.
Our growing season here is about 6 days. So we had to do something. And
you guys just didn't have a lot of leeway there. You say you guys have to pretty much go to Utah to get fresh vegetables and stuff.
Yeah, which we don't like doing, but yeah, we're
different kind of herbs, Ian. Different kind of herbs. Well,
I have seen it. I have seen more 4th of Julys in this part of the state where it was snowing than I have where it was warm. So
lovely country. Lovely.
It is lovely country, but you got to want to be here.
Yeah, I'd have to agree there. Mark's mom, they lived in Montana in the mid 70s, and Mark's mom used to tell us that one year they had summer on Tuesday, and while they were there, and then she also used to talk about snowing on the 4th of July.
She used to say it'll be a cold day in July before I'll do X, Y, or Z, and
then she's seen it.
She doesn't say that anymore.
Well, there you go, Shelley. If it's legal, make the best. Ian said that area is not for soft people.
Not for soft people.
Yeah, you're right.
Uh-oh.
That don't sound good.
Got to check.
Well, Mark tends to that situation. Well, Shelley, I'm going to ask, you may or may not know the answer to this question, but since that's happened up there, I mean, how are they doing that? Do people have to have some kind of a license or permit if they're going to grow to sell? And have many people turned to that alternative as a way to make a living, cash crop, that you know of? I just wonder, because I know in California, some people did. I think in Colorado, some people have. They got their plots of ground. Hey, Dean, good morning. Or almost afternoon. Oh, it is afternoon. Good afternoon, Dean. And I know there were people, and I knew somebody in Colorado that supposedly had a place to plant, and once it was legal, and he had a store. He had a license or whatever for a store, and they were selling, some of it, I guess, growing their own, if you will. Too personal. Cannot sell without. So I thought there was a license involved.
And there's still some counties in the Northwest in Ian's state where it's not legal.
Well, it's not legal technically in the whole country, whether the state allows it or not. Technically, it's still a federal offense. They've not done anything about that yet.
Yeah, I don't know what the county name is. Moffett, I think, up in Northwest Colorado is
still kind of like a dry
no-go zone.
Kind of like a dry county.
Yep.
Interesting. Well, guys, I've taken up 2 hours of your time this morning, and hopefully you either learned something, enjoyed it, or got a respite from something else you should have been doing. So I think I'm going to wrap it up. My hip and my back says I probably need to change positions for a little while. Plus, Dean got here, so it's time to go. We get cash at the car dealership I work because the dispensaries can't use the bank due to federal. Oh, really? I think I heard that mentioned, Ian. I think I heard somebody else say that one time, that you had to be careful about that because of federal laws about that. I'm glad you did too, Shelley. I'm glad you made it in always. I meant to make sure you had a note, and I didn't send as many out this time. I figured people might be tired of me spamming their chat rooms. You too, Shelley. Have a good weekend. Enjoy your company. Don't dig too much this weekend. Oh, this is Memorial Day weekend, isn't it? Or is it?
No,
next weekend is.
Maybe I don't know. No, it didn't.
Wait a minute. Now I gotta look.
I think it's next weekend.
Well, this is the 21st. I don't know about that because I don't know what the last day of the month is. Here, wait a minute.
Ian just told us it was next weekend.
Okay, Ian. But he's in Colorado, and for all we know, may be stoned out of his mind. Okay, where's her to Dave? Somebody just said hi to Dave. Oh, hey, Dave. Space Mountain Dave Cantrell's here. Thanks for stopping in. Unfortunately, I'm getting ready to start winding down. I've been on for a couple hours, so we talked about bats today. And you're welcome to go back. If you're interested at all, you're welcome to go back and look at the slides and the photographs. Thank you, Ian. We didn't chase as many squirrels today. I had too many slides, I guess, but so we didn't come into all the tall tales. We had a long conversation the other day about tails and things we'd done. we might have worked some of that out of our system the other day. I don't know. Thanks, Ian. I'm always glad to see you in here in the morning. You have a good rest of your day. And folks, I'm going to say bye. I'm going to get up and go stretch out and stretch my leg out so maybe it'll quit hurting a little bit. Not stone, though it would give me something to do. It might make the day pass better or not. I don't know. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, Kay. Thank you. If you ever have a question that you think I might be able to answer, feel free to send me a note. And I'll do what I can. And Mark's talking to youngins, I think, so we'll give him a minute. But appreciate everybody being here today. Do you have a grand youngin emergency?
Well, daughter walked in. There's various things occurring.
Ah, daughter walked in. Is that a daughter or daughter-in-law? That's a daughter.
Daughter.
Is that Jessie?
No, Amy.
Amy. She want to say hi? I don't think I've met her.
She's dealing with her children.
Oh, okay. That could be interesting. Tell them to show her how they can get in and out the door now. Her dog door is involved.
They don't have one at their house.
So well, you need to put one in for them.
They've got a dog, but not a dog door. So yeah.
So that's only something they get to do at Grandpa's.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well. Well, you tell her we said hi.
All right. I'm gonna sign off.
All right. You take
Good to
care,
see everybody.
Man. Talk to you. When are you leaving? Wait, when are you leaving town?
Not till next week. Thursday.
When?
Thursday.
So this coming Thursday, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Because the other one's already passed.
What other one?
The other Thursday.
Well, I didn't know if you meant, and you said next week. I thought you were saying 2 weeks from now, but
no, next week.
Okay, well, that's what I thought. All right, I'll talk to you before that.
All right, later on.
See ya.
Love you, buddy.
You
later.
too. Later. All right, folks. Again, thanks for being here. Really had a good time. Always enjoyed. I enjoyed. I get to talk about stuff I'm passionate about or things I do or have done in my life. So that's always good for me, even though I may talk my voice out. Actually, I'm just really dry this morning. Might be my allergies. So everybody have a great day and a great weekend. And we'll see y'all again real soon. Hopefully I'll see some of you on chats this week. I apologize if you have a chat and I haven't been in it lately. I do apologize. I've had a full between sometimes not feeling good at night to, right now there's hockey on playoffs on TV. There's bull riding on TV. I mean, I'm one of them alternative sport kind of guys. So football and basketball and that stuff don't really keep me up much, but hockey does and rodeo does. So anyway, good Lord's willing and the creek don't rise, everybody. We'll be back again next week, bright and early on Saturday morning. Bring your coffee and come on in. Bye-bye. Oh, it didn't end.